organizations have multiple platforms for sharing information. In addition to print, radio, and television media, social media is an outstanding way to engage your constituency and share your story in a cost-effective manner. In order to have the greatest impact, we want you to be able to eliminate any barriers to your audience and helping them hear your story. So we're going to talk about making an impact with your message using social media. Brian's going to demonstrate how to post, use tags and hashtags, and we're also going to talk about email options. All of this is such great information, and like I said, we'll be sending it out to you guys later in the month in terms of the communications toolkit. So the value of a solid communications plan can build and strengthen your relationships with your primary audiences. You guys work with several different types of audiences. It might be funders, it might be individuals, it might be families, communities, and making that message the most effective it can be, sharing it with your audience at the right time, and making sure that you're crafting your message in such a way that your audience is going to receive it well. So let's talk about your audience. Who are they? It's very important to understand who your audience is before you get started. Age demographics are always very important. Understanding education level, language. A lot of folks are working with folks who speak 2 languages or English as a second language, and we want to be really careful and mindful about that. Also, what is your constituency or your audience role in your program? Are you communicating with folks who are familiar with who you are? Are you communicating with folks who you want to invite in and to learn more about your program? Who are these folks? And knowing this is going to help you understand how to craft a good message to an audience. Employment status. If you feel like your audience are folks who work nights and weekends, then we know we're going to want to communicate with them during the day. So this is important to know. Also, one other way of learning and capturing this information could be doing a simple survey, or if you're getting ready to do a program and you're having an information session just to get to know folks, have them get to know you, you may do just a very simple survey, show of hands, who works during the day, who works in the evening. You may even ask the question, what social media sites are you most interested in getting information through? So sometimes the surveys are very complicated, but other times you can just do a very informal back and forth with your audience. Right, I'm clicking. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to break it down to some simple parts real quick, just to talk about the elements of communication. First, we need a communicator, somebody that's sending a message. In this situation, it's going to be you or your organization. We need the right message. What are we trying to share? What do we want the reaction from our receiver to be? We need to consider barriers to sending or receiving that message, and we're going to talk a little bit about that here in a second. We also need to know that our receiver is actually getting the message and who they are. We've talked about that as well, so think of your receiver as your audience. So these are just the basic parts of a communication model. But we also know that there's a lot of information flowing out there, and we know that we are always at risk any more of our message being lost in the noise of other messages. So we want to craft messages that are compelling to our audience. We want to get the timing of sharing that well with them. What time of day would they most likely be on social media, or be most likely to be checking your website? So these are the kinds of things we're going to talk about today. So let's talk a little bit about barriers to communicating. So let's say the sender, the communicator, starts coughing or is sitting in a room where the heat comes on or something like that. This could be a barrier to that sender or that communicator's message even getting to the receiver. Perhaps they talk too softly and then you can't hear them very well, or they talk too loudly and then it's just obnoxious. So having that sender barrier be as minimal as possible is very important. You've also got external barriers that can't be controlled. Perhaps you're talking to somebody at a party or at a meeting and there's other things going on. You can't control that. So you want to be mindful of that as you're setting up your communications. And we're going to talk about what some other external barriers are shortly. And then what are those barriers to that receiver or that person you're communicating with actually getting your message? Perhaps they're eating while you're communicating, or perhaps they're multitasking, as I'm sure none of you all are right now while you listen to our webinar. So what are barriers to that receiver or that person you're trying to communicate that might cause them to not get your message? Let's talk about some of the other things that we can't control. In a 1 hour newscast, we know that there's 53% of that time is commercials. We know that people are absolutely inundated with ads and messaging. Every time you click on the internet, you're on Facebook, you're on anything, you're seeing extra ads. Those are additional messages that can divert attention from yours. And you see some stats up on the screen right now that, in just average surfing the internet, you could see 11,000 ads in a month. That's a lot of ads. You're not going to remember hardly any of them. And an individual can see up to 4,000 ads a day. Now, of course, that's contingent on how long they're on the internet and how much they're on the internet. But nonetheless, that's a lot of messaging being shared. So let's talk about receiving. The person, your audience, they're receiving your message. Sometimes we get very excited about all the news we've got to share, and we want to just share it all out at once. But let's take a step back and think about what the goal of our message is. What do we want to share, and what do we want the person who's receiving that message to do? Is there an action to it? And then you've got to think about your message, and then does this accomplish it? Sometimes we may want them just to read something to get to know us better. We may want them to register for a program or an event. Understanding what you want your receiver to do, your audience to do, will help you understand how to craft that message. Perhaps if it's a registration message, you want a very short testimonial statement with a link to register. Or if it's a longer message, you may just list the headline and perhaps a link to your website where the full story is. We use a lot of these kinds of methodologies here at NCFL. So as later you're going to see more of our Facebook presence, but you'll understand that many times when you see a link, it's because we want you to just see something that intrigues you and then click the link. Remember, constantly remembering how many messages are coming at our audiences every day. We want to get their attention and keep their attention. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about just the model of communication. Let's talk a little bit about communicating with limited resources. One of the things we learned when we talked to our partners about their needs when it came to communication with audiences in their areas was the fact that most of us have limited resources, being time and staff. So when you think about your communication plan, think in terms of what is workable for your given situation. It is better to have a workable plan that's perhaps simple than no plan, or a plan that doesn't accomplish your goal. Remember, what we're going for here is making an impact and strengthening our relationships with our audience. So as you think through, consider these ideas for someone to own your communication. Perhaps you do have a designated staff person. This may be anybody on your staff who has an interest in communication, social media, and being able to serve your organization by helping connect you with your audience. If not that, perhaps an intern. There's a lot of local colleges and that, or even high school seniors who are sharp folks who could come in, spend a semester with you, set up your plan, and actually help you execute your communication plan and social media. So you may want to check with a local school. Perhaps you've got a lead parent or program participant who is completely engaged with your program. They've got an interest in this area and they volunteer to take this on. This is going to probably require that you still have a staff person kind of oversee that person, but nonetheless, if they're carrying the heavy part of creating your plan and executing it, it could help you move forward with a more robust plan. But just remember that, we want to do the most we can do with excellence, knowing that we're working toward the most robust plan and opportunity to connect with our audiences. This is just a very high-level overview of a communication plan. We can get into a deeper, actually setting up a plan on another time, but your plan for your communications, you're going to want to have an objective. What is your overall objective? What is the timeline? Perhaps you want to develop a communication plan for a given time period, a month, a semester, a quarter, whatever works for your programming at your site. Again, you're going to want to identify that audience. Who do you want to communicate to? You want to determine ownership. Who owns the plan? Who's going to be the person who makes sure that what you've said you're going to do, you're doing? And then you work the plan. Many times, we'll have a great plan in place and some opportunity will come along and we'll be like, oh, we need to share this out. Well, maybe we do, maybe we don't. Maybe we need to step back and say, does this contribute to our goal? Do we share out the whole thing? Do we time this out so that we can add additional information? What does this look like? So work your plan. The other thing is just remember that a communications plan doesn't have to be a big fancy document. It can be a very simple document that's perhaps one page, a table laid out with your objective and your timeline, your audience, etc., your message. But so just keep that in mind when we talk about communications and communication planning, that we want to keep it simple and keep it excellent. So now we're going to take you through some practical steps to sharing your message on social media. And with that, Brian Hancock's going to jump in here and actually demonstrate posting. Take it away, Brian.
All right. Thank you very much, Karen. She said my name is Brian Hancock. I'm the Digital Communications Manager here at NCFL. And for the next few minutes, I'm just going to speak with you all a little bit about some different online platforms through which you can share these communications Karen was speaking about. And I'm going to review some time-saving strategies that we use here at NCFL. Okay, so first we're just going to talk about where to share. The three primary platforms we're going to discuss are Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, platforms which I'm sure all of you are familiar with. Just really quickly, we're going to talk about some shared and some unique benefits of each one. First, Facebook. I'm sure all listeners have heard of Facebook before, but it is the most widely used platform in the world. There's around 2.3 billion users on Facebook today. And so this is obviously going to be your largest audience. Twitter, a unique benefit is that it has high visibility. So if you were on social media for 20 minutes, you might be able to see 100 tweets, whereas you might only see 30 to 40 Facebook postings. So there's a greater chance that what you have posted on Twitter is going to be seen because more content can be consumed at a faster pace. And then Instagram is more visually driven than the rest, obviously. It's also the fastest growing platform in the world. It grew by approximately 200 million users in the first 6 months of 2018, according to Search Engine Journal, and topped 1 billion total users during that span. So each of these three have unique benefits, but all of them have the shared benefits of being free or low cost, depending on what you want to do with them. And they are also all great ways to drive traffic to your other unique platforms, whether that be a YouTube channel or a website or a newsletter you may have. And so they're really just shared spaces where we can kind of divert attention to our own unique spaces and communicate with our audience about our programming in that way. So we're going to talk just briefly about where or what to share. That was where to share, but now what to share. Social media can be a really good tool, as Karen was discussing, to build credibility for your organization in a variety of ways. The information that you have to share can be useful in highlighting the past, present, and future. Okay, so your organization's past events and successes, present events and successes, and future events and successes. And in all these ways, you can build your organization's credibility moving forward. So what exactly should be shared? Number one, as you see there, photos. A picture, as the old adage says, is worth 1,000 words. According to a study by software application design firm Buffer, tweets with images receive 18% more clicks, 89% more favorites, and 150% more retweets than those without images. So therefore, whenever possible, you want to share images in your social media messaging. What can you provide images of? Well, any special events that your organization hosts, your family's engaging or interacting in a positive way because of your work, even using images from a past event you've hosted to promote a future event can be a good way to incorporate images into your social media messaging. So images are vital if you have them. The second point there I discussed a little bit, including links to places such as your YouTube channel, if you have one, or your website. Again, we want to steer people from these gathering social media platforms such as Instagram and Twitter, Facebook, to your more unique pages such as your website or any other kind of more personal channels you all may have. And then finally, besides pictures of your events, it can be helpful to share info and even pictures about other organizations' events as well. If you think about it, if you're sharing out other organizations' vital information, then you kind of become a go-to place, right? People need information from various sources, and if you can be the provider of several different kinds of information for several different kinds of organizations, then you're obviously going to attract a lot more attention. So what do these other organizations' events look like? Well, they could be deadlines for school registration that are upcoming that families might need to know about, or they could be community resource opening that's going to benefit families. So there's a lot of different things that you can let your users know about that, again, is going to bring you credibility in the long run. Okay. All right, and then lastly, how to share. So as I discussed, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram can all be useful in sharing pertinent information. But as many of you know, learning happens best through doing. So we've up to this point been kind of interacting through a PowerPoint, but we're going to switch gears a little bit here visually, and we're going to take a look at how we create and schedule posts to share information here at NCFL. Okay, so you should see a Facebook page now on your screen. And this is actually the backside of our NCFL Facebook page. And so you can see this is the home. Just like any Facebook page, I can edit our operating hours. I could change it to 4:30 today if I really wanted, if I really wanted to. Yeah, this is how we manage all of our content. And so quickly here, I'm going to demonstrate how we create and schedule posts, which can be a huge time saver and really beneficial to us. So as you can see right here, I've got 19 scheduled posts for the upcoming month of January. And so I'm going to go in here and look, and I can see them broken down. I can see kind of a little preview for each post, and I can see when this is scheduled to publish, what day and what time. And so what I want to do is create a new post in order to add to that. And so let's see here. I'm going to go really quickly into a Word document that I have and copy some text because I like to build my my media post on in Word and then kind of transfer them over. Okay, here we go. And then I'm going to click on Create, and it'll bring up your regular post. And so this is the post that I'm looking at sharing today. So at NCFL, we gave a grant on behalf of the National Literacy Directory to a woman named Florence Phillips back in 2017. And last month, she was honored by CNN, the network, as a CNN Hero of the Year. And it came to our attention earlier this week that she gave a great acceptance speech and just really inspiring story. And so we want to share this out on behalf of Florence Phillips. And so there's two things we could do here. Number one, I'm not friends with Florence on Facebook, but if I was, I could tag Florence in this post. But what we are going to do is we're going to tag the CNN Heroes of the Year Facebook page primarily because it's CNN, it's a network, and it can drive a lot more traffic to this post. If we just posted the post as is, it's good, but it's only reaching the audience that we already have. But if we can tag CNN Heroes, then all of a sudden we are opened up to a whole nother audience as well, because there's the possibility that they could share it or that people could find it based on that. So if we go to this second page here, I'm just going to search for CNN Heroes and see. Yeah, here we go. So there is a Facebook page devoted to this, right? And so it can be helpful to like the page because then it's kind of stored internally, and then I can see here like that what it's called, and so I can go back to my post and say, okay, here I am. I'm going to do CNN Heroes, and you can see that 669,000 people have liked this page, so it could be worth linking to. And then you just build it into the post just like that. So same wordage, but now you have the link as well. So last month, she was honored as a 2018 CNN Heroes of the Year Award nominee. And then we have the link to her speech. Again, back to the point about pictures are worth 1,000 words. The fact that we've got the actual image and the link right there where you can see it is going to drive a lot more traffic than if we just had this link hanging out there with no preview. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to schedule this. You could either publish it immediately or you could schedule it. We're going to schedule this because we just posted something a few minutes ago, actually. So we're going to schedule this for tomorrow. So you can just click on this calendar, hit tomorrow, and we're going to schedule it for 3:39 p.m. So you can pick any time, any day, and then you just hit schedule there. And let's see here. Oh yeah, I think it's at the top. You're right. So you're right. There we go. So so there we have it, and we can click on it to bring it back out and make sure it's as we like it. But it's loaded in, and basically tomorrow at 3:39 p.m. this will automatically publish, and we don't have to do a thing. So this can be incredibly useful for an organization that doesn't have a lot of time to devote to social media, because you can just say, all right, once a week I'm going to pick 30 minutes or an hour, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to schedule 5 social media posts on Facebook, and I'll just schedule, for different times or around this time every day. And then you're good. And then you can just let it unfold over the course of that week, and you've got an active social media presence, and you don't have to think about it. So Facebook and Twitter scheduling, as far as posting goes, can really be beneficial. We obviously use it all the time. You can see we've got posts really built out for the whole month. And as things come up, we may add to that. We may plug in posts or move posts around here and there, but at least we try to schedule things around a month in advance here. But even just a week or a few days can be really beneficial. So that is Facebook, and now now we're going to go talk about Twitter just really quickly. This is the platform that we use for Twitter. It's called Hootsuite. And you can basically manage different social media postings through Hootsuite. You can also just do this if you're focusing on Twitter through Twitter itself, through TweetDeck. You can manage and schedule posts through that. Just kind of depends on what you prefer. But we use Hootsuite. And so I'm going to kind of go through a similar exercise here of creating and scheduling a post. But as you can just see real quick on this dashboard, it's really helpful because I can look at tweets that we have just recently posted. So we just welcomed a new team member, Amanda Free, to NCFL. So we sent out a tweet about an hour ago welcoming her to the fold. And about 4 hours ago, we promoted this very webinar. So we tweeted that out. We can also see what's scheduled to come up in case your friends missed our webinar, or you would like to tune into a future NCFL webinar. We're going to tweet something out tomorrow with a link to what we still have to come as far as webinars go on the horizon this winter. And we can look at that, as the month unfolds. We can also check our mentions. So if someone tags NCFL in a post, that will display itself as well too. So we can interact with the people that are trying to interact with us. So that's just kind of the interface. But I'm going to create a quick post here for you and just show you how we do that. So again, this is the Hootsuite platform. It's definitely one of the most popular platforms, but you could just do this through Twitter as well. But on Hootsuite, looks like this. We're going to select our NCFL platform, and then I copied some text from my Word document, so I'm going to paste it here. And it's the same, basically the same posting about Florence Phillips being named the CNN Hero of the Year. If you noticed, for our Facebook posts, I wrote out the National Literacy Directory there in the first sentence. And that's because we don't have a Facebook page for that, but we do have a Twitter handle for the National Literacy Directory. So we try to tag ourselves as well as anybody externally we can on Twitter. So works the same way as Facebook. You're using the @ symbol, and then you are typing in the handle there. So for us, it comes up pretty quickly. It helps if you don't need to follow the organization on Twitter in order to tag them, but in order to find out what their handle is, you do usually need to visit their page first. So I had previously just Googled, CNN Heroes Twitter, and was able to easily find the CNN Heroes page. And so again, was just did the @CNN Heroes there. And so basically what will happen with that is our National Literacy Directory and CNN Heroes will both get a notification that we've tagged them in a tweet. So if we were to go back over here in this mentions category, if this is CNN Heroes page, then this tweet is going to pop up on their mentions, and they could retweet it if they wanted, or engage with it in some way. And so that's the purpose of that. And then we've got the rest of the text here, and then we have a link. And you noticed on the Facebook posting, the link was shorter, and that's because with Hootsuite, and there's also some external sites you can use, they're really helpful with link shorteners, because as you can see on the right for the preview of this, the text is a little bit long, and so it can be helpful to just shrink it down for just visual appeal. And so this is nice. You can just go to link settings down here, customize, and you can see shorten my links with, and this is just kind of their program to do so. And you can see the link was shortened there super easily. So it's taking you to the same place, but it's just a shorter URL. So we'll do that. And then we hashtagged CNN Heroes here as well. And so everyone's heard of a hashtag probably, but some may not know the purpose of it. So just to explain it really quickly, hashtag is a keyword or a phrase with the pound sign in front of it that can be used to describe a certain topic or theme. Once tweeted, a hashtag automatically becomes clickable. So if we were to tweet this out, then you could click on this hashtag CNN Heroes, and it basically is a link. And by clicking on it, it'll take you to a page featuring a feed of all the recent tweets that contain that particular hashtag. So if someone was looking at a different tweet with hashtag CNN Heroes, they could click on it, and our tweet would come up as well, since we've hashtagged this. Including a hashtag basically, therefore, can help you categorize your tweets in a way that makes it easier for other users to find if they're also interested in that particular topic. So, so you can look up, let's see, for instance, we are going to just, let's see, look up hashtag CNN Heroes. And, oh, actually, yeah. So scrap that, sorry. Here we are. So if you have Twitter pulled up, we're in Hootsuite right now, but if you have Twitter pulled up, you could just search hashtag CNN Heroes. And basically I did that earlier. And then you can see that CNN was using that hashtag several times during the month of December. So it was relevant, and CNN has a huge following, obviously. So we're going to go ahead and use this here. There's some times where you can implement hashtags or use hashtags, and it's relatively unnecessary. And so for that, there can be tools to help show you whether or not it's worth using a hashtag. RightTag is one such third-party site that can kind of help you narrow down whether a hashtag is actually popular or if you're the only one using it. So I just typed in Flashback Friday because that can be a popular hashtag on Fridays. And it'll show you that hashtag, and then it'll show you the unique tweets featuring that hashtag per hour, retweets with the hashtag per hour, and then the exposure per hour. So you can see that hashtag Flashback Friday is relatively popular. About almost 700,000 people are seeing that hashtag every hour at this point in time. And so you can scroll down and see some other similar hashtags and what their audience is. And you can also continue to scroll down to see hashtags that might not be extremely popular right now, but can be popular over time. Some that are good for Instagram, and then also it tells you some not to use. So for instance, it's saying do not use hashtag Flashback Friday was, or hashtag Flashback Friday time, because those are not popular and they're not really going to gain you any extra traction. So it's just kind of worthless to include them. So there's a lot of different sites like RightTag, but it can really just be helpful as far as determining the popularity of a given hashtag. So back in Hootsuite, this is our post. Same deal as with Facebook as far as scheduling. So I could hit post now, or I could schedule it, and I'm going to try to do the latter here. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so we are going to actually schedule this for today. And so, all right, there we go. So we're going to schedule this, even though we did it on Facebook for tomorrow, we have some extra room built in for today for this on Twitter. So we're just going to schedule it for, you can only do increments of 5 in Hootsuite, but we're going to go ahead and do 350 today. So I'll hit done there, and I can hit schedule. And then about an hour from now, this will publish and will be out in cyberspace forever. So those are just some quick tips and pointers about how to use social media quickly and effectively in order to engage your families and ultimately to build the credibility of your organization over time. So now I'm going to pass it back over to Karen, who's going to discuss some different ways to disseminate your communications as well. So we're going to switch back over.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. So we're just about toward the end of our time together, and I want to share with you just one other way that we communicate and share messaging with our audiences, and that would be using email. Email is a lot older than Facebook and Twitter, but one of the things that's happening in the email space is that spam filters are getting more sophisticated. So if you have an email that you'd like to share with a large number of folks, I would recommend not using your Outlook or your personal email to send hundreds of emails at one time. Consider using a free or low-cost option such as MailChimp or Constant Contact. These email platforms have some really great templates that are easy to use. They allow you to create a nice looking message. You could include photos, and as Brian already mentioned, the fact that photos get people's attention. And so it's a great way to put something out there either with the photo or logo, and the templates are super easy to use. The other thing that these services offer up are just some analytics, some reports back that once you send your email, you're going to know who opened it, who didn't open it, how many bounced, which means, how many bad email addresses you might have, or how many good ones, and the fact that somebody clicked through a link that you shared through an email to learn more about whatever your subject matter is. So pay attention and utilize these reports to help you refine your message and to refine your lists that you're emailing to. A couple of tips on this. First of all, be sure you have permission to email information out to the folks on your list. If you use a MailChimp or a Constant Contact and you end up with too many bounces, too many blocks, like if somebody doesn't want your emails and they block you, these services will actually shut you down and they will not let you use them anymore. So be sure you've got permission and you've got as good a list of email addresses as possible. Don't over email. We all get a lot of emails sometimes in a given day, and sometimes too many, all of a sudden your message is going to basically get lost in the noise, if you will, of other emails and messaging that your folks are getting. So, a couple of times a month, maybe 2 or 3 times a month maximum, keep your messages short. So if somebody has to scroll to read the whole message, you're going to start losing people. So keep your messages as short as possible, concise. Again, our goal here is to get their attention, give them the immediate information that they need, and then perhaps a link to send them to your website or other platform to learn more. So just keep that in mind. And then list management is very important. If someone unsubscribes to your email, then take them off the list and don't email them again. The worst thing you can do is just hack off your audience by emailing when they don't want it. So those are just some quick tips on emailing. But again, it's another way to connect with your audience and help them engage with you and your information. We're going to wrap up now. First, before we start taking your questions, I want to thank Clay Rice for all of his help on our production today, and Brian for joining me here. So what questions do you have? And Clay's going to monitor our questions and help me.
And they can just chat in with questions, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay.
We're not seeing many questions right now, which means we answered all their questions. Right?
I think that's what that means.
I think
Karen.
that's what it means.
Yes.
So you're all multitasking now, which is another noise that I didn't want for today's broadcast. But so again, I want to remind you guys that we will be producing all of this information in our communications toolkit that we will email out to you guys later in the month. And for your own use, as well as publishing it on our website. But you guys will get it first. So plan on seeing that. Also, on your screen, you're going to see ways to engage with us. Check us out on Facebook. If you're not following, please jump on there and find us and follow, as well as Twitter. NCFL also produces several publications, and so we encourage you to jump online, and based on what you need to hear from us, maybe it's resources, maybe you'd like one of our e-newsletters that provides information on industry-driven information, then jump on board right there at that link and subscribe. So we have a question about Hootsuite being free. Is Hootsuite free, Brian?
All right, well, good question, Aubrey. And a lot of these different platforms can vary based on to what extent you use them. NCFL we use Hootsuite pretty robustly, as you could tell. And so at some point along the way, there can be a paid service, but if it's a relatively smaller operation with, not as many posts going or not as many platforms linked to it, then there is a free version of it. So it depends on, how much you're trying to use it for, but I believe you can get up to 3 different social media platforms linked onto Hootsuite. So say you wanted to use all 3, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You could create posts on Hootsuite for all 3 of those for free, to my knowledge. So yeah, there are some potential there for low cost and free.
Okay, and I see another question here, but
might have been a typo.
What do you do to get the attention of your audience? Well, that's a great question, and really, I think paying attention to knowing who our audience is first and foremost most important. if we are sending messaging that we know is going directly to on-site staff in a program site, then that message is going to be relevant to their work. And we may create a graphic that indicates this is for directors of program sites. Again, understanding who our audience is for any given message or post is going to be how we get their attention. So we need to wrap it up now, but thank you guys for your questions and participating today, and we will see you again soon. Thanks all.